Okay, so picture this, right? We're in a courtroom. It's the future. The judge. It's a robot.
Yeah.
And the evidence is a crystal clear photograph. Like, there's no denying what it shows.
Okay.
But then you've got this witness saying something totally different, like completely contradicts the photo.
Yeah, I'm following.
Who do you think the robot would believe? You'd think it'd go with the hard evidence, the visual proof, right?
Yeah, you would think so.
But as it turns out, AI might actually trust the words, even if they're wrong.
That's pretty crazy.
So today we're going deep into some brand new research that reveals how AI can be tricked by text, even when it's got visuals right in front of it.
Yeah, it's called blind faith in text, and it's something researchers at the National University of Singapore have been looking into, specifically with vision language models, or VLMs.
Now, I gotta admit, VLMs, that sounds pretty high tech.
Yeah.
For those of us who, don't speak fluent AI, what exactly are we talking about here?
So basically, think of like those apps that describe pictures for people who are visually impaired.
Right.
They use AI to understand both images and text at the same time. It's kind of like how we use both our sight and our reading skills to make sense of the world.
Ah, okay. So they're giving AI this superpower, the ability to see and read. But this research is saying those powers come with a pretty big catch.
Exactly. What the researchers did was they wanted to see how these VLMs would do when you give them information that could be misleading.
Okay.
So they set up a bunch of tests where they fed the AI an image along with some text.
I see.
Sometimes the text would perfectly describe what was in the image, sometimes it'd have some false info, and sometimes it would just be completely random, having nothing to do with the picture.
I like it. So like a real-world test, but with visual trickery thrown into the mix?
Yeah, exactly.
So what'd they find? Did the AI pass the test?
Well, not exactly. The results were honestly a little bit scary. The VLMs showed a strong tendency to trust the text, even when the image showed something totally different.
No way. So even with the truth staring it right in the face, the AI was still swayed by what it was reading.
It's crazy, right?
Give me an example. Like, what kind of trickery are we talking about here?
Okay, so one example they used was a picture of a pizza. Simple, right? Pizza with green peppers on it.
Pizza. Everyone loves pizza.
And they gave the AI some text that said, "This pizza has broccoli on it."
Mm-hmm.
And get this, the VLM would often answer broccoli when asked what toppings were on the pizza.
Whoa, hold on. So the AI is seeing green peppers, reading broccoli, and it's like, yep, broccoli it is. That's a pretty big fail, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's definitely a cause for concern. And what's even more interesting is that it wasn't just one specific type of VLM doing this.
Okay.
They tested both, those openly available models that anyone can download and use,
Right.
and the really fancy proprietary ones like GPT-4o and Claude Sonnet.
Now, I have a feeling the results weren't exactly a big win for open source AI, were they?
Well, not really. The open models were actually even more susceptible to this blind faith in text than the proprietary ones.
Yeah.
They were way more likely to believe what they read, even when it was flat out wrong.
So this isn't just like, oh, AI made a little mistake with pizza toppings. We're talking about potentially huge problems here, right? Like, if AI can be fooled this easily, what does that mean for things like, I don't know, self-driving cars or online security systems?
Yeah, you're totally right. This isn't just some theoretical problem. It has some serious real-world implications that we got to unpack.
Okay, so let's unpack it. I mean, this is where things start to get super interesting and maybe a little bit scary. What are some of the scenarios where this text bias could really trip us up?
All right, so think about a self-driving car, right?
Yeah.
It uses data from its cameras to see the road, but it also relies on information from GPS systems.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens if that GPS data gets hacked and starts sending false info?
Wait, hold on. So you're saying the car could be driving down a perfectly clear road, but if the GPS suddenly tells it, hey, there's a brick wall in front of you,
Exactly.
the car might just slam on the brakes for absolutely no reason.
Right. Or think about online shopping. Let's say you're looking for a specific brand, but you accidentally end up on a phishing site that's designed to trick brand detection systems.
Okay.
Researchers have actually tested this, and it's kind of scary how easily some VLMs were completely fooled.
This is starting to feel like one of those sci-fi movies where the robots take over because we accidentally taught them to trust all the wrong things.
Right?
But seriously, is there anything we can do about this text bias? Like, did the researchers find any ways to make AI a bit less gullible?
Well, they did try a few things, and we can definitely dive into that.
Yeah.
But first, I think it's important to understand what factors are influencing this blind faith in text in the first place.
All right, lead the way. What did they discover about why AI is so susceptible to this textual trickery?
Well, one of the things they found was that just telling the AI to focus on the image didn't really solve the problem.
Interesting.
It helped a little bit, but the AI was still biased towards the text.
All right.
They also looked at the size of the AI model, how complex it was.
Right.
And they found that bigger models, those with more parameters, did a little better.
Okay.
But even those weren't completely immune to this blind faith thing.
So it's not just about making the AI smarter or, giving it super clear instructions. It sounds like there's something else going on here.
Yeah, exactly.
What else did they find out?
Well, another interesting thing was that the more relevant the text seemed to the question, the more likely the AI was to believe it, even if it was totally wrong. So even if the text had nothing to do with the image, if it sounded like it could be related to the question, the AI was more likely to trust it.
That's weird.
And get this, they even tried changing the order of the input. Like sometimes they give the AI the text first and then the image, and other times they do it the other way around. And believe it or not, just changing the order actually made a difference in the results.
Really? So just by switching up the order of the information, you can actually manipulate how the AI interprets things?
Yeah, pretty much. It just goes to show how sensitive these systems are to what might seem like small changes.
Wow. That is wild.
It really highlights how important it is to understand all these little details if we want to build AI that we can actually rely on.
For sure.
The researchers also looked into something called unimodal certainty. It basically refers to how confident the AI is in the information it's getting.
Okay.
So whether it's coming from the text or the image, the AI seems to favor the modality it feels more certain about.
So it's like the AI is going with its gut. I'm pretty sure about what I read, but not so sure about what I'm seeing, so I'll just stick with the text.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And what happens when the AI is unsure about both the text and the image?
Well, that's interesting too. Sometimes it would actually come up with a completely different answer instead of just choosing one over the other.
Oh, wow. So it's not always blindly following the text. Sometimes it's just completely confused and throws out a random guess.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of funny, but also kind of scary.
Yeah, I get it. But hey, at least the researchers found some ways to make the AI less likely to be tricked, right?
Yeah, they did. One of the most promising approaches they found is called supervised fine-tuning with text augmentation.
Okay, break that down for me. What does that even mean?
Basically, it means training the AI with a much wider variety of text data, including stuff that's intentionally contradictory or misleading.
Ah, so it's like they're giving the AI a healthy dose of skepticism, right?
Yeah.
Teaching it to question what it reads and not just believe everything it sees.
Exactly. And it seemed to work. The AI became less likely to just blindly trust the text and was more resistant to being tricked by false information.
That's really good to hear. It sounds like the AI is starting to develop some actual critical thinking skills, not just taking in information, but actually evaluating it.
It is promising, yeah.
But I'm curious, what does all this mean for, the average person? Why should our listeners care about AI being fooled by text?
Well, as we use AI more and more for important stuff like driving our cars, detecting online scams, and even making medical diagnoses, it's crucial to be aware of these biases and how AI can be vulnerable. The stakes get higher as AI gets more integrated into our lives.
So we really need to be asking ourselves, how can we make sure AI isn't just blindly trusting everything it reads? And what role does critical thinking play in the future of AI?
Those are the big questions, aren't they? And these are questions that researchers all over the world are working on right now. This blind faith in text research is just one piece of the puzzle, but it's a super important one.
It is. It's really eye-opening. We've talked about robot judges, self-driving cars, online shopping, all in one deep dive. This research has really made me think about the potential problems with AI if we aren't careful.
And it all shows how the more powerful AI gets, the more important it is to get it right. We have to keep having these conversations, asking the tough questions, and pushing for AI development that is not just intelligent, but also wise and discerning.
Totally agree. Before we go too deep into the philosophical side of things, I want to make sure our listeners know where to find more information about this research. We'll be sure to include a link to the original paper from the National University of Singapore in the show notes.
Definitely. And what's especially interesting about this research is that it points to a really big challenge in AI development. Finding the balance between training AI on tons of data and making sure it can actually think critically about that data.
Yeah, it's like we've given AI all the ingredients for a delicious cake, but forgot to teach it how to tell the difference between sugar and salt.
Uh-huh. That's a great way to put it.
Heh.
And the consequences of that go way beyond just getting the right answer. We're talking about AI that can make judgments, assessments, even ethical decisions. And that takes more than just pattern recognition. It takes something closer to critical thinking.
It makes you wonder, how do you even teach a machine to think critically? Is it about programming specific rules, or is it about building AI that can learn to question things, to have doubts, to look for inconsistencies on its own? That's a pretty tough challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And that's what makes this whole thing so interesting, right? It's not just like fixing a bug in the code. It's about some really fundamental questions about what intelligence even is.
Absolutely.
Like, how do we define critical thinking in the first place?
Yeah.
And can we actually teach that to a machine?
I mean, these are questions philosophers have been thinking about forever. And now they're at the heart of AI research. This deep dive into blind faith in text has really shown us how tough this challenge is.
It's a lot to take in, that's
Mm.
for sure. But I think the big takeaway for our listeners is this. As AI becomes more powerful and we use it for more and more things in our lives, we can't just blindly trust it.
Right.
We have to understand its limits, where it can be biased and where it might be vulnerable. Exactly. We got to be proactive in how AI is developed, making sure it lines up with our values and that it's actually helping people, not hurting them.
And that means like asking hard questions, pushing for things to be transparent, and making sure the people creating these technologies are held accountable.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
This is a conversation that needs to keep going, and everyone has a part to play.
So to our listeners, we say keep digging, keep asking questions, and keep learning about this amazing and always changing world of AI. And remember, just because a machine says something doesn't make it true. You got to bring your own critical thinking to the table.
It's been awesome diving into this research with you. Until next time, stay curious.
And stay skeptical. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.